cloudy today, but the sunlight's actually peeking out, I guess in one direction. So let's see if it improves overall. And what's going on today? I guess this is kind of an interesting story in regards to DJI, for example, where there was the accusation with the war with Ukraine and Russia that they're actually helping Russia by, quote, I guess you can say, throttling their DJI AeroScope hardware, which they say isn't the case. With that in mind, it was kind of interesting reading this. I guess it was from an official in Ukraine where they formally tell DJI, for example, stop working with Russia, I guess you could say. This one here says, in 21 days of war, Russian troops has already killed 100 Ukrainian children. They are using DJI products in order to navigate their missile. DJI Global, are you sure you want to be a partner in these murders? Block your products that are helping Russia to kill the Ukrainians. And with their formal requests, you can see here, like they say, we kindly ask that you provide us with the information regarding the number of functioning DJI products in Ukraine, their ID, where and when they were purchased and activated, the map on the regions in Ukraine of functioning DJI products in Ukraine. Is there a problem with activating a new DJI product in Ukraine? So they basically want like a bunch of, I guess, information, and they're telling them basically to turn on things like what? DJI AeroScope, which again they accuse their throttling and all that. And they want them to block all DJI products if they were purchased and activated in the Russian Federation, Syria, and Lebanon. And with that thought, DJI's response was kind of interesting because it raises that, I guess, debate, should a drone in general per se, like the more common one nowadays, be treated just as anything else, for example, like a consumer camera, I guess you could say, or should they all be treated as some kind of military weapon? So here DJI said, Dear Vice Prime Minister Fedorov, all DJI products are designed for civilian use and do not meet military specifications. The visibility given by AeroScope and future remote ID requirements is one or more reason why using them for military missions is inappropriate. That's kind of an interesting statement about the remote ID, as it would imply it's intrusive, so to speak, like anyone could actually see where you are and all that. It says, DJI AeroScope system is built into all recent DJI drones and broadcasts information about a drone in flight to AeroScope receivers. This functionality cannot be turned off. DJI has not changed the functionality of our AeroScope system in any way in Ukraine, and many Ukrainian AeroScope units are still functioning. DJI sales and service in Ukraine has been consistent and unchanged. Please understand that DJI cannot obtain user information and flight data unless the user actively submits it to us. We do not have the ability to identify and verify a user's location, and therefore, we do not hold the data you have requested. If the Ukrainian government formally requests that DJI set up geofencing throughout Ukraine, we will arrange it according to our policy. It would apply to all DJI drones in Ukraine, no matter who is flying them, but it may not stop all flights. Please be aware that geofencing is not foolproof, and if the user does not connect to the internet to upgrade the geofence data, the new geofence will not take effect for the drone. That's an important detail as well, because again, a lot of people are concerned, like I guess with all that fear of Chinese-made drones, communist control and so forth, they kind of state here as well. They can't just say, oh, click a button and it lands and all that. They have to actually put some kind of update into the drone, and you have to actually download it, so to speak, for it to actually take effect in that way. So if people avoid that, then there's not much they could do in general. And afterwards, they say, we remain available to discuss these issues at your convenience. So many interesting points there, again, just to think about in terms of whether or not should drones like these just be considered as a tool, like most other things in life. Because if you're trying to be consistent in life, most people don't say that for things like, let's just say, a camera, ones with very high, I guess, range zooms and all that. You just treat it as a quote camera, correct? Should that be the same for stuff like a consumer drone, or no? Would you always classify them as some kind of military weapon and all that? At the same time, would you be inclined to be on DJI side here or not? This is kind of interesting to think about too, because even here they talk about all those other companies they approach, like to say, hey, ban your products, like Qualcomm. I know there was a lot of news about banning things like what, McDonald's and Coca-Cola and so forth. It's just funny how those things get more attention versus stuff like this, I guess, in general. And with the topic of cameras, I thought this was really interesting. Imagine trying to take a photo or a video and you see a bug there, you assume, swatted off the lens or something like that. But apparently this one was actually inside the camera. It says photographer finds spider living in his camera's viewfinder. Imagine looking through your camera's viewfinder, finding it strangely blurry, and then realizing that a fairly large spider had made its home inside, and that your eyes had been just a fraction of an inch away from an 8-legged creature. That's what happened recently to Canadian photographer Joel Robinson. Apparently the photographer lives here in BC, Canada, and he says he uses it around here and the UK, and based on that picture, that looks like a huge spider. The camera itself is a Sony A7R III mirrorless camera, according to this. It made me wonder, how did it actually get in there? Did it just go in there when it was really small? Or did it actually stay there before as an egg, so to speak, and all the temperature of the heat in the camera gave it a good environment, I guess, to grow up and all that? So what can he do afterwards? Well, apparently to this, he contacted people like Sony asking what he could do, and ultimately they suggested he'd bring it in for like a regular repair. Would you actually have the guts to just open up the camera and let the spider out, or would you just leave it be until you bring it in for servicing and all that, I guess, like here? And I quickly read this, which apparently was a big deal. It says, NASA's Webb reaches alignment milestone, optics working successfully. It says on March 11th, the Webb team completed the stage of the alignment known as fine phasing. At this key stage in the commissioning of the Webb's optical telescope element, every optical parameter that has been checked and tested is performing at or above expectations. With that, they apparently captured this crazy image. It says, while the purpose of this image was to focus on the bright star at the center for alignment evaluation, Webb's optics and NIR cam are so sensitive that the galaxies and stars seen in the background show up. Yeah, so I guess that's kind of crazy, huh? That's kind of cool. Makes you wonder what else is out there we haven't seen before. I'd rather see all the, I guess, funding and innovations go towards stuff like this, exploration and all that, versus, I guess you could say, people trying to kill each other in wars and all that, just for more, what, power and control? How random is that? Alright, see you guys later.